welcome. I'm Jack Pritchard, the president of the Korea Economic Institute. And what you're doing is you're sitting in a very enlarged conference room from our previous location. Today's event is exactly why we moved here, to be able to accommodate as many people as possible for an important event such as this, and to have space for our friends in the media to be able to capture this. And hopefully, as we have put down our risers, we've lifted ourselves up so you can see. And if there's anything we haven't done to accommodate you, please let us know. And then I will promptly ignore it. But let me, just on a very serious note, just for a couple of minutes here. The U.S. presidential election, coming once every 4 years, is a significant piece of American history. It sets the stage both in the United States and the world for significant events to come. And so we all take it very seriously. Here at KEI, we think that we're doing our corporate citizenship by helping to sponsor events such as this. And we're very pleased today to be able to do this. Now, there is no doubt that the U.S. Korea relationship is one of the strongest and best in the world. We have a security relationship, we have an economic relationship. There is a cultural tie between the citizens of Korea and the United States, as witnessed by over 2 million Koreans that are now living in the United States. We have an extraordinary amount of Korean students that are studying here in the United States. When you think of all grades, from grade school, from elementary school, junior high, high school, and college, there are well over 100,000 Korean students at any one time in the United States, more than any other nation in the world, more than China, more than India. That's extraordinarily impressive. The administrations have recently agreed to what's called a WEST, a work, English, study, and travel program, which will allow 5,000 students from each country to study abroad, travel, and really get to know each other far more than we have in the past. The United States and Korea have, as you know, entered into the visa waiver program that will allow Koreans to be able to come to the United States visa-free for a 90-day period. That's going to enhance the quality of our relationship as well. But today we're very privileged to have representatives from the two campaigns, from the McCain campaign and from the Obama campaign, here to talk about their candidates' views on U.S. Korea relationship. And so it's my great pleasure to introduce, in the order that they will be talking to us today, Dr. Micheal Green and Mr. Frank Jannuzi. Now, as I think all of you are very familiar with both, but just in a sentence or two, let me just mention that Dr. Green is a senior advisor and Japan chair at CSIS in this building, and an associate professor of international relations at Georgetown University. He served as special assistant to the president for National Security Affairs, and he was the senior director for Asian Affairs at the National Security Council from January 2004 to December 2005. He really was at the NSC as Director for Asian Affairs beginning in 2001. A very long period of time for anyone to survive and thrive is the way he did for that period of time. It's a compliment, Mike. It really is. Frank Jannuzi, as you well know, serves as the Senior East Asia Specialist for the Majority Staff of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, a post that he's now had for the last 11 years. Prior to that, for a 9-year period, Mr. Jannuzi worked as the East Asia Regional Political Military Analyst for INR at the State Department. Now, I think I won't do any more in terms of introduction because you know them both very well, and it's my pleasure to turn the mic over to Dr. Green.
Do I need to move this, or can you hear me?
Yes.
Excuse me. Thank you, Jack, and congratulations on the new space. Although we are at CSIS just a few floors down, it feels like a different building. This is a really lovely facility you have, and thank you also to you and to KEI for keeping the U.S. Korea alliance at the center of our policy discussions in Washington, not just during this presidential campaign, this endless presidential campaign, but all throughout the years. And thank you, Jack, also for inviting my friend Frank Jannuzi, a great colleague. We've done this before, Frank and I. We sometimes bore our audiences by agreeing more than we disagree. I'll try to get in a good fist fight today to make it interesting for you. 100 years ago today, John McCain, Slew McCain, was on board the USS Connecticut, steaming across the Pacific as part of the Great White Fleet. Teddy Roosevelt had sent the Great White Fleet, including a young recent graduate from the Naval Academy at Annapolis, to show American arrival on the world scene, and in particular that America was a Pacific power. His son, Jack McCain, of course, was a submarine commander in World War II and was commander of Pacific forces during the Vietnam War. When he became commander of Pacific forces, his son, John Sidney McCain, the candidate I'm advising, was a prisoner of war in Hanoi. He'd been there for several years already. The North Vietnamese came to him and said, you can go now. Your father's commander of the Pacific forces. We want to make a gesture to the Americans. It was a propaganda ploy, and John McCain said no. And his prison guard said, McCain, this will be very bad for you. And he said, I don't care. And it was very bad for him. They beat him for 2 years. His family history, his personal history, and then his career in the Senate span 100 years of American engagement in Asia. And he's a candidate who understands the sources of American influence, of American prestige, of American power, American purpose, and American responsibilities in Asia. He understands, and he's talked about the new challenges we face, transnational challenges, climate change, which he has led on the Republican side of the aisle for over a decade, challenges like avian influenza, the opportunities we have to create new multilateral cooperation to engage China. He's spoken about that. But at a fundamental level, he knows what the roots are of American power and purpose in the Pacific. Our allies, and in particular the Republic of Korea. And he knows that our allies are the basis for stability in the region, and that our commitment to our allies is a critical measure of American credibility in the region, that you have to be there for your allies when they don't need you, because then they'll be there for you when you do need them. He knows that American power and purpose in the Pacific has been based since the Second World War on an open American economic internationalism, on free trade, and he knows that that our influence and our power and our purpose depend on our commitment to our own values, which is why he's spoken throughout his career on human rights, on democracy, and has been unflinching in that, but he's also been unflinching in criticizing his own government and his own party when they failed. I was in the NSC when Senator McCain insisted on meeting with the National Security Advisor, Steve Hadley, almost every other day until the White House gave him the right answers on detainees and torture. And sitting inside the NSC, I quietly was delighted by this. And even Steve Hadley, my boss, who had to go before Senator McCain and get his drubbing, had enormous respect for it. And he really beat the administration apart on it, because his view was and is that America is honor-bound to speak about human rights violations around the world, and when we falter, that's when we have to be clearest about our own failings. That's the broad approach, the broad philosophy he brings to Asia. He's written quite a bit and spoken quite a bit about issues on the Korean Peninsula. I would refer you to an article he did in Jungang-ilbo with Joe Lieberman in June. He's written in the Australian and in the Asian Wall Street Journal, Foreign Affairs, and he's issued statements and also given comments to the press in some detail on North Korea, U.S. Korea Free Trade Agreement, and other issues. Getting down to the specifics in the U.S. Korea alliance and how a McCain administration would approach them, I thought it'd be useful to just focus on three areas that I think will be of interest to you, and then we can get into others in the Q&A and the discussion. And they're fairly obvious, at least the first two. First is North Korea policy. Second is KORUS, U.S. Korea Free Trade Agreement, and our economic relationship. And third is how we should think about the U.S. Korea alliance as a global alliance with an influence and an impact and a responsibility that extends beyond the peninsula to the Asia-Pacific region and to the international system as a whole. First,